Hello everyone, I'm Heather. I'm back for a quick video, or what I hope will be a quick video. I am making vegan apple pie for myself and my munchkin. Probably my husband will eat a lot of it as well. Vegan apple pie, tater tot. Yeah, apple pie.
Oh yeah, I thought you said vegan.
Well, it is vegan. But also, while I'm doing that, I realised that ages ago, Shawn the book Maniac tagged me in the sex and literature tag. And I never actually got around to it. It was sort of like I was in Lanzarote, and then there was this huge storm in Lanzarote and we couldn't get off the island, and then just the world imploded with like the pandemic and everything, and I never actually went back and did it. But then sort of recently I've been on this like smutty novels kick, which has reminded me that I never actually went back and did this sex and literature tag, even though I really liked watching everyone else's. So I'm going to do that and make pie. So let's get on with it. Okay, so probably put the flour in first.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay, so Sex and Literature tag. It was made by Brian at Bookish, but loads of people have done it. I, as I said, was tagged by Shawn the Book Maniac. I also watched sort of like the Codex Cantina guys did it. It's really good as well. So I'm really for it. I'm pretty excited. Also because I'm very pro sex and literature, and not a lot of people are, I would say. Like, you get loads of people who are like, you know, sex in literature is pointless. Like, because it's literature, the whole point of it is to sort of like, you know, move action forward, and there should be no sort of points in it that are just fluff and pointless, you know, to the plot and to the sort of drive of things, and it should say about, you know, deep things and about the human condition and blah blah. So sex just sort of cheapens it, and it's something that people only put in order to sell books to people who aren't as, like, I don't know, cerebral as me or whatever. Like, and I feel like that's not how, you know, that's not how literature works. Like, I feel like literature is meant to sort of, I don't know, express the human condition, or like feelings and things that happen to humans and different ways of thinking about things. And yeah, like, it has less fluff than sort of another kind of fiction book or whatever. Every sort of piece of it, I guess, is meant for something, to say something or to move something forward or whatever. But I don't understand why sex can't also do that or be like that, you know, something that's as integral to human life as sex, you know, the sort of source of our strongest memories and strongest feelings and stuff like that. I don't understand why it can't be in a book that's meant to sort of portray humanity and the human vision. I don't know, I'm just rambling now. I'm like stir pie talking about sex and rambling. Okay, so the first question is, what is a book you have read that comes close to crossing a line between literature / adult fiction and pornography? And I honestly cannot for my life think of something. Like, I spent ages thinking about this, like, you know, as you do, and like, maybe it's just like the state of my mind after I've read so much sex in books. It's just sort of degenerated to the part where I can't tell what's porn and what's not now. But I think I have a rough idea, you know, like, when I was a kid, there was this huge porn warehouse across the highway from the town I was living in, and it was a really small town, so it existed only on one side of the highway, and then on the other side was just this massive porn warehouse. And I moved away from there when I was 17 to go to university, so I never had the chance to go in. So then sort of years later, when I was driving through that part of Colorado again with my friend to go to Vegas, we were like, guys, we should stop at the porn warehouse. And it ended up being really anticlimactic inside, as things are when you're a kid and like finally have the ability to go in them when you're an adult. But we got some books to read on the drive. Like, one of us would read it aloud while the other people were in the car, like driving or whatever. And so we got these two like proper like readable porn books. And, you know, I guess the difference is that the book is only sex. Like, you know, it's not the intensity of the sex, it's not the descriptions of the sex, it's not how crazy the sex is. Like, I think the difference between porn and just like sex and literature is that sex and literature is a book by itself without the sex. Whereas like a porn book, if you take the sex out, it's just like a guy meets a girl and then it ends. So like I can't think of anything where I picked up a book of literature thinking that it was going to be a book of literature and it ended up being porn. Like I can't for my mind think of anything like that. Okay, so number 2 is what is a book you have read with a cringe-worthy description or discussion of sex? And I think for me these things tend to be like rape situations. Like I'm not into it. Like I don't like it at all. Like I prefer someone just sort of like have like a blank page and then like words on it that say and then so and so was raped and then just like continue the story on. Like I know that it's important to have it in stories and like it does like drive things forward, and like of course it's something that happens loads in life and you shouldn't ignore it or whatever, but I'm just so uninterested in reading about it. I can't even tell you. I usually just skim through it. So there was this part in these Outlander books that I love, and I can't remember which book it is because for me all like 8 or 7 or whatever of the Outlander books just sort of meld into one massive book. So it was somewhere in this like series of books where Claire Fraser, who starts out at the beginning of the books as just like, you know, 28 or so years old or something, but nearing the end she's like a proper grandmother. She's got grandkids, she's like in her 50s, you know, like she's like a proper like wise old lady. Like people come to her for like herbs and stuff like that, and she's just like the coolest. And it's at that point in her life when she's like getting raped and like kidnapped by these like crazy dirty nasty people, and just like everyone has a go. Like it's the worst, and I couldn't read it. It was just so cringy and so terrible. I just had to like scan it. I had to be like, oh, nope, not over yet. Flipping, nope, not done, nope. Because I just couldn't. And there's also this book, like I don't know if any of you have read The Pisces by Melissa Broder, I think. And like I quite liked that book, you know, it was really good. I liked it, but there were like parts in it when she's having sex with this guy who's like part fish, and like I'm not against it. I'm not against it. I liked it. I thought it was good, but I feel like the descriptions of her having sex with him and his like fishness, I just couldn't get into it. I just couldn't cope with the fact that it was like a fish. Now, I know it's a guy and he's part fish, but she's like having sex with a fish, and I just I just couldn't. I couldn't cope. I had to skim. But anyway. Okay, so number 3 is, what is the most overrated book with a reputation for being sexy that you have read? And this one isn't actually like literature, obviously, but it is a book that was supposed to be sexy and was supposed to be awesome and ended up being probably one of the worst books I've ever read, which is the 50 Shades of Grey book. And I feel like loads of people feel like this, okay? You're either all the way into the club for the 50 Shades, or you're just 100% out of the club. Like, you just can't even cope with people being in it. Like, I had to skim the last half of the book because I refused to DNF it because everyone had read it and they said it's amazing. I was like, there's got to be something at the end that's just so fantastic. So I just did my best to finish it, skimming the vast majority of it. The writing is terrible. All of the sex scenes are exactly the same. The people are just horrible cliches. Like, it's just the worst book. It wasn't sexy. It was just boring and annoying. And I feel like that's a pretty unpopular opinion. And I'm sorry, but I feel like loads of people are with me on this as well. Like, you're either in or you're out. I'm out. Okay, so number 4 is, what is your favorite passage from a book about or describing sex or a sexual situation? And I tend not to keep a lot of the books that I read. Like, I keep some of them, like ones that I 100% cannot like even cope with giving away, or sort of giving to someone else, or giving to a charity shop or whatever. But generally, even if I really liked the book, I'm gonna give it away. I'm gonna give it to a charity shop or to a friend or whatever to read. Or I get it from the library, which is like a whole other thing. So I don't have any of these books with me, so I can't answer this like with, you know, detailed description or like with a reading of the passage or whatever. But I remember this book, Age of Light, by what's her name? Oh, Whitney Scherer. And it's sort of about Man Ray, the famous photographer. He's like American, but he lived in Paris for a while. and his sort of like muse person who ended up being her own photographer, like in her own right. And they have quite a bit of sex together in the book in Paris, like in their sort of studio of like photography and stuff like that. And you know, some of them are just sort of commonplace, and I don't really remember a lot of the sex scenes sort of with any specifics. But there was one where it was like in a sunny window in the daytime, and they were sort of like having sex or like making love or whatever, and it was like a really gorgeous description of it. And then there was like light coming in through the window, and then he was like taking photos of her, but not like smutty ones, you know, just like ones out of just like, you know, love and desire and just sort of like magical feeling. I don't know, it's hard for me to describe it, and I don't have this book, so I can't look. It's so annoying. But I just really, really liked that scene, and I remember it in my mind as being, you know, really cool, and I really liked it. But also, Outlander again, like, in this sort of like massive series of books, Claire and James Fraser do it loads, and some of them have just like stayed with me in my mind of like what the perfect doing it situation would be. You know what I mean? Like, it's like ruined my whole sex life. Like, I don't want to have like a whole chat about it, but unless, you know, I make my husband like dress up in a kilt or something, it's just never going to be like realized in my real life. These like amazing, like gorgeous, fantastic love scenes that Diana Capleton has sort of dreamed up in her mind and put down on paper in like the perfect way. Like, the way that she writes sex is so good. Like, it's never like loads of like synonyms for things, you know. Like, you can just say it's a penis, it's okay. Like, you don't have to like come up with like loads of different words for describing it, and you don't have to say that anything is throbbing. That's okay. She just like does it really well, I think, and I always just really enjoy the way that she's done it. So there's that. Also, like, another book that I don't have with me because I got it from the library and can't quite remember the specifics of, but one that sort of stays with me is Mothering Sunday by Graham Swift. And there's like a scene in it. So the whole thing is that this servant girl, this sort of like orphaned girl, is having a love affair with this like really rich heir type guy who's supposed to be marrying someone else, and they've sort of been, you know, lovers for ages, and now they can't be lovers anymore because he's got to go get married. And they sort of like do it for the last time in his house. They sort of like sneak in and do it. And then he leaves to go somewhere and sort of leaves her there to sort of lock up and leave or whatever. And she's just so sort of like caught up in it and caught up in like the last moments of it and sort of the, I don't know, like the finiteness of it. And she just sort of like wanders around the house and like through the library and everything naked. And I thought that sort of scene about her sort of thinking about after they've done it and her just sort of wandering the house naked was really good. So okay, so question number 5 is what is a book you have recently read that you think handles descriptions / discussions of sex well? And I think I'm gonna go with Normal People by Sally Rooney on this one. And that sort of surprised me when I thought that, because when I read the book initially, I wasn't in love with it. You know, I sort of expected more of a love story, but I think that was my own fault, because obviously it's called Normal People. It's about really normal people, not about like magical, like once in a lifetime situations where people fall in love with magic and blah blah blah. Like, it's about normal people falling in love. And I think watching the TV show, like the BBC TV show, if you haven't seen that show, you need to see it because it's so good. I think watching that show and loving it way more than I loved the book, has sort of made me rethink how I was taking in the book, you know, what sort of mindset I was in when I was reading it, and how that sort of ruined it. Like, I wasn't in the right mindset. I wasn't expecting the right thing. So I think I need to go back and reread it now, sort of in a different frame of mind. You know, I think I'd enjoy it a lot more. But even when I was sort of in a mindset of thinking it was a bit boring and not really liking it, I still thought that the sex scenes were really well done. Like, they're done really normal. Like, I know it's called Normal People and I should stop saying that things are normal, but it's like loads of sex scenes are done like sex would never be like that. Do you know what I mean? Like Outlander is basically like that. I love it because it would never actually be like that. But in Normal People, they fall in love through sex and being together and being intimate, and it really portrays that really well. And also, like, the hesitancy and awkwardness and sort of second guessing and everything that goes into sex and sort of being that intimate with someone. she just really portrayed it really well. And like, again, she never uses like terrible euphemisms or like, you know, horrible adjectives to describe various parts of the body. It just feels really natural and really lovely. And I really enjoyed those. Okay, so number 6 is what are some books that contain positive and frank depictions of sexual relationships between LGBTQ characters? So one that sort of sticks with me particularly is The Paying Guest by Sarah Waters. Like, I read this book ages ago, so I can't really remember like the exact specifics of it, again, because I don't have it, I got it from the library. But I remember, so it's the idea is this woman and her mother in sort of like after the First World War, I think. They have a massive house because they had like a massive family and they had like all the money and everything, but after the war, like all of the men of the family are dead, and they're having a hard time paying the bills, and they can't really maintain their house and their servants and everything, so they've got to rent out one of their rooms to this couple. And it's a man and a wife who've like just been married, and the daughter of the people who lived in the house before, she and the wife of the couple become lovers over time. They become really close, and then they sort of do various intimate things. I thought that was really well done. I really liked that, and I think again it was really sort of real. Like, you know, it wasn't sort of this like overwhelming throw yourself together in a passion sort of like sexual moments. You know, it was like hesitant, slow falling in love, like as, you know, I don't know, as like real lovers do, I guess. And I really liked it. I thought it was really good. But I think, like, I haven't read anything else by Sarah Waters, but I think I remember her being like quite good with this sort of thing in all of her books. Like, I should read more of her books, definitely. I'm gonna have a look at what books of hers are on my TBR at the minute. Maybe think about adding more, because I think I remember she has like a reputation for doing this sort of thing really well. Okay, so number 7 is, what do you think is the best way of depicting sex in literature / fiction? And I think for me, the sort of best way and sort of my favourite way to read it is if it doesn't shy away from it. It doesn't just sort of hint at everything, you know, or sort of like treat it with kid gloves. It goes fully into it, but it's not like overly descriptive of the mechanics. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on, we all know how it works. Like, we don't need a manual, you know. We just want to, like, I love when they focus on more things like, you know, how they feel and what they see, and I don't know, less about, yeah, like the mechanics of the doing it, and more about how they're feeling about the doing it while the doing it is happening, and sort of what they're thinking, and, you know, various nuances of them doing it versus other people doing it. I don't know, I think those are really my favorite ones. And yeah, like I've said before, like sort of like a realness to it, you know, not like, I don't know, like no one has sex like people in like you know, smutty novels or whatever. I like when it seems like it could actually have properly happened like that, do you know what I mean? And not something that's obviously come from somebody's like sexual fantasy in the tub or whatever. Okay, I think that was the last question, so I'm just gonna finish up my pie here and then we'll see how it turns out.
If you wanna sing a song, though your voice is going wrong, never mind about the tune and sing along. It's playback, it's playback, it's playback. Smile around and there you go, don't you worry, they don't know. I believe you'll be the greatest on the show. It's playback, it's playback, it's playback. Get the mic in front of you now. If you don't know what to do, the lights are low, they'll never notice that the whole thing isn't true. Here's your chance, give it a good try. You've no voice, that's the reason why. It's playback, gotta be playback. Once again, playback, that's the one way to get by. Must say they don't really care. Make believe everyone will stare. It's playback, gotta be playback. Once again, playback.
Okay, thank you for watching. Sorry if it was a bit cringy and terrible. I hope that you enjoyed it anyway. I 100% am super interested in what anyone else has to say about it. You know, if you like this sort of thing or don't really like it or find it hard to sort of get through or whatever, let me know. I'm 100% excited about having a convo about it. I feel like people don't have this kind of conversation enough. And I feel like people shouldn't be weird about it. You know, like our culture tells us that we need to be weird about it, and I think that's silly. Like, it's something so important to being a human. Like, everyone does it. I don't know why we have to like be weird about it. But anyway, anything you have to say about it, any comments, concerns, or recommendations for books that you really liked to do with like sex and literature, I'm obviously going to be super excited about receiving those, all of those. Please give me loads of them. And I will see you next time. Love you, bye. Ta-da! Gorgeous.